Do you ever feel like your relationships are just stuck on the surface? You crave that real deep connection with someone, but there's this invisible wall just holding you back? What if I told you that there's a simple science-backed hack that can literally rewire your brain for love? It all comes down to a tiny almond-shaped part of your brain that we call the amygdala. And one simple act that can change everything. Stick with me, okay? Because you're about to learn the scientific secret to taking your relationships from a surface level to a more profound level. Let's be honest, we have all been there. You're talking with someone you care about, and out of nowhere, a wave of emotion hits you, a flash of anger or insecurity or a surge of anxiety. What do most of us do? We pull back, we shut down, or change the subject. These are all just protection strategies to keep ourselves safe from being emotionally exposed. This creates a painful cycle for us. We want to be closer to people, but our own defense instincts keeps them further away from us. We show the world a polished version of ourselves, terrified that if people saw who we really are, they might leave. The irony is that this self-protection is the very thing that guarantees the distance we are so afraid of. This isn't some personal failing, it's our brain's biological default setting. To get why we do this, we need to take a quick trip inside the brain for a second. Tucked away in our temporal lobes is the amygdala that I mentioned earlier. So think of this as your brain's 24/7 security guard. Its main job is to scan for threats and sound an alarm. So this system was incredibly handy when our ancestors faced, saber-toothed tigers. The problem is your amygdala hasn't gotten a software update since. In a few 100,000 years, it can't tell the difference between a life or death threat and an emotional one. To your amygdala, the fear of rejection can feel just as scary as a tiger. So it hijacks your system. That's what's happening when you lash out in anger instead of saying you're hurt. But there's another key player, the prefrontal cortex, basically your brain CEO. It's in charge of logic and reason. So the secret to better emotional control is strengthening the link between your impulsive amygdala and your wise prefrontal cortex. So how do we get our brain's CEO back in the driver's seat? The answer is surprisingly simple, and this technique is called affect labeling. All it is as simple as this: putting your feelings into words. That's it. You don't have to analyze the feeling or fix it. You just have to name it. I feel anxious right now. I am hurt. fMRI studies from Dr. Lieberman's lab at UCLA, he's a neuroscientist, showed us exactly what's actually happening in our brain when we are in a high emotional state and when we actually label the emotion. In this study, when people were shown pictures of emotional faces, their amygdalas lit up. But the moment they were asked to simply choose a word that described the emotion, something remarkable happened. Activity under the fMRI machine, when they were looking at the brains, the activity in the amygdala went down while the activity in the prefrontal cortex went up. So it was like an inverse relationship. So when amygdala activation went down, prefrontal cortex activation went up after you labeled the emotion. Dr. Lieberman says it's like hitting the brakes on your emotional reactions. Naming an emotion makes your prefrontal cortex step in and slow down the amygdala's overwhelming impulsive response. This basically creates a critical pause, a space between the feeling and the reaction. An unlabeled emotion is like being in a pitch black scary room, and affect labeling is like flipping on that light switch. The fear loses its power because it's no longer some unknown terrifying force. If you're geeking out on the science as much as I am right now and want more tips on using your brain to build a better life, make sure you follow us, or if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and hit the notification button. We get into this kind of stuff every single week. So what does calming your amygdala have to do with love? Pretty much everything. The simple practice of affect labeling is the foundation for building authentic and deeply amazing relationships. First, it stops destructive arguments. An amygdala hijack is the source of most fights we later regret. When you can just pause and say, I'm feeling really defensive right now. You're reporting from your inner world instead of attacking from it. That simple shift turns basically a fight or an argument that pushes two people apart into a conversation that pulls the two people back together. Second, it's the ultimate act of vulnerability. And vulnerability is the foundation or the birthplace of connection. When you honestly name your emotion to someone, you're giving them a window into your real self. It's a profound signal of trust that encourages the other person to drop their own defenses and meet you in a more open, honest space. This is how intimacy is built. Basically, one vulnerable moment at a time. This process even has a physical effect you can measure. Researchers have found something called physiological linkage, where the heart rate and nervous system of people in close relationships can actually synchronize or sync up. And this co-regulation is a sign of deep emotional connection. It turns out that vulnerable, open communications, expressing soft emotions like sadness or fear instead of hard emotions like anger, is a key ingredient creating this healthy, synchronized connection. You're not just connecting emotionally, your bodies are literally getting on the same wavelength. By practicing this one simple hack, think about this. Just this one simple act of labeling your emotion, you're training your brain to be less reactive and more reflective. You're building the emotional intelligence to navigate the beautiful mess of human connections with grace. You stop seeing vulnerability as a weakness and start seeing it as the only real path to real love and belonging you've been looking for. For so long, many of us were told that strength means being stoic and unshakable, but the real science of connection tells a very different story. True strength is found in the courage to be vulnerable. The most powerful tools for rewiring your brain for love is the simple, profound act of putting your feelings into words. This isn't just about feeling better in the moment. It's about reshaping your neural pathways over time to favor connection over fear. So start small. The next time you feel a wave of emotion wash over you, just try it. Name it. This is frustration. I feel lonely. I'm scared. Each time you do it, you're casting a vote for a new way of being. You're taking the control back from your ancient, fearful brain and stepping into your role as the architect of your own emotional life. Try it. Leave a comment. It's okay. If it doesn't work, you can say that too. But try it and see what happens. And please feel free to comment, ask questions. I'm happy to engage with everyone that's watching. Thanks again.